Good morning. So glad that you are watching 3+U, and as much as we always want you to watch the full hour and still invite you to, we're going to kick things off with our good friend Linda Mines this morning, because if you want to make plans to head over to the courthouse, put your shoes on and plan to go after you hear what she has to say. Today, Linda, happens to be Vietnam Veterans Day, right?
It is.
So no surprise, y'all have planned a great event at the courthouse to honor our local veterans.
We have, I love to remind people sometimes in life you get a do-over. And 50 plus years ago, when our Vietnam veterans returned from combat, returned from serving, even Vietnam era veterans who were supporting those who were actually in combat, there weren't ticker tape parades. There were not great welcome home with the yellow ribbons and all the things that we think of today when we see our returning warriors.
Right.
It was a very difficult time politically, but now we can say Vietnam Veterans Appreciation Day, National Commemorative Day, and it's a way to say thank you and to say welcome home, because some of those soldiers never got a welcome home.
It's an interesting thing because you talk about the do-over. There is kind of this 5 to 10 year gap, I guess, in there where it was absent, but when it came back with a fury.
It did, and we have VVA Chapter 203 here in the Chattanooga area. It's the second largest chapter in the nation.
Really?
960 plus members. There are over 10,000 Vietnam veterans alone here in the Tennessee Valley. We live up to that volunteer tradition that we've had since the War of 1812.
They would not probably appreciate me saying this about them, but you tend to think about the World War II generation as being our senior population, but the Vietnam veterans span a good 15-year age gap.
They
right?
do.
So
we technically consider from 1957, when we first sent advisors in, until we pulled out in 1975. So that's a huge gap, and most of those guys and gals are now in their 70s. And one of the reasons why it's so important to come out and to say thank you is because they're unfortunately dealing with medical issues at a much earlier age because of the use of chemicals.
I can talk to you about all types of things, but before I get into it too much, what are y'all doing today at noon at the courthouse?
It's absolutely going to be wonderful. We will be saying welcome home, but we have a great program planned. The Mayor Coppinger will be speaking. Sabrina Smedley, who's chairman of the commission, will be speaking. The congressman, Bill Norton, who is the past president of the VVA 203, Vietnam veteran, is our keynote. If people probably know him as a community leader, he's so typical of what our Vietnam veterans did. They came home, they took their uniforms off, they put their civilian clothes on, and they set about volunteering in the community, leading in churches, leading in schools. He will be speaking a little bit about the experience. He and 3 brothers rotated through Vietnam. 4 boys in Vietnam during the conflict.
Wow.
Absolutely. I often
the
think about those moms.
Mother.
Oh yeah. I mean, you think about that, but we'll be doing that. We'll be raising the Vietnam flag. We'll then fly on the courthouse flagpole for the rest of the week. The honor guard will be there. We'll be doing a 21 gun salute, and then our dear favorite bugler will be blowing taps at the end for those that we have already lost. So many that we lost 156 from Hamilton County during the conflict, but we're losing so many every week now.
So I did kind of gloss over, and I'm sorry that I did, when you mentioned the Agent Orange. So not only did they face the challenge of going off to war and coming home then to the tone of the country that they inherited when they got home, and they had to suppress their experiences, but now with the Agent Orange, it's got to kind of bring back a PTSD all over again for many of them.
I think it does, and so many of them also deal with the PTSD just simply because, and I mean, it's hard for me to imagine never having been in combat, but I think whether it's my World War II veterans I work with or Korean veterans or all the way up through the current conflicts where we have men and women in harm's way, it's difficult for us to imagine what they see and what they are not ever able to unsee.
Right. I was talking to my husband actually this morning about the moments in your teenage years that even when you're in your 60s, you look back and you're that teenager again. So for them, many of them were just boys, but even a simple thing like turning on the radio, and the songs of that era were historical songs,
They
right?
were,
They were about
from
the war.
Eve of Destruction all the way through, all those things that we hear. One of the things that I've noticed so often when I'm in a group with my Vietnam veterans, if you hear Life Force come over or you hear a helicopter,
They kind of,
and it's interesting, most of them will tell you, they can tell you the type of helicopter it is by what they hear, but for them, the helicopter was life-saving because it was going to medevac them out to where they could be treated in trauma. And then, you know, Vietnam's the first time we truly had that sort of staging for trauma
Right.
on the battlefield. But I've been with them when someone would go, oh, that's a Loach or that's a Chinook, because they can tell by the way the blades whirl what size helicopter it is.
I have a brother-in-law who was a medic in Vietnam,
Oh,
and he's
wow.
very stoic, and he's happy, but there's got to be something behind that. He doesn't let it out.
It has to be, and the medics on the field in Vietnam saved so many of our soldiers who simply would have died inside.
So you mentioned the VFW. Is there a strong camaraderie among our local Vietnam veterans? We have about a minute left. But
There are two chapters. VVA 203 normally meets over on Macaulay Avenue, and then the VVA, there's a chapter in Saudi Daisy, very active chapter. In fact, I was with them last Monday night for their meeting. I think for so long, those who had served just simply didn't even talk about being a veteran. And as they've gotten older, this ability to come back together
Right.
and to talk. We'll be doing a special tribute today also, and I can say it now because it's quickly enough he won't hear it. John Sparks, who is our POWMIA flag bearer for the VVA 203 Honor Guard, we're going to be paying special tribute to John today. He's one of my favorite people in the world and such a man of courage. 5.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton as a young man.
oh wow!
When they were released in '73, he came home after having been shot down in '68 and came home and lived his life and has been a wonderful, productive citizen, but we are so incredibly proud of him.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing some time with us today, and then heading over now to that courthouse. And so if you want to eat your lunch early and then head over and be part of the
please.
celebration, it would be great to give them the rousing support that they so deserve.
It would be
Always
wonderful.
great to see you.
Thank you.
We're back after this.
You love where you live,